You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So in our previous session, we tried to load our GeoJSON layers that we added to the map. And I hope when we went to various, after the session, we were all able to go through the line of codes that we wrote, and we experimented some of the things I mentioned. I had a lot of feedback from some of us uh, who were trying to test, like explore other functionalities I mentioned, or other events or other functions I mentioned, and it was quite impressive the way people are getting this whole program or this whole development. Yeah, so we'll, because of time, we'll quickly get into today's agenda, and we will. So let me just give a brief overview of what we'll be doing today. So, last time we added our GeoJSON to the map. We added our map tool. So we did. Let me just show what we just, I think I opened that. All right. So that's it. So we added our point tool. We added our scale bar. We added our mouse over coordinates. We also added our layer control, uh, the layer control here, and also appended our layers to the layer control. Yeah, and I think the last thing we did was to get this GeoJSON layers on the map. So basically, that's what we did for we did on our previous session on Monday. So today we are going to add some flesh to what we did, and also move on to the other parts of the program. All right. So we'll go back to our quotes. And as we all know, we created this variable to hold our GeoJSON layer for region and for the health facilities and for the railway. So these are the three layers that um, we loaded, right? So we want to add a style to it, right? And to add a style, um, I'll point you to the documentation so that we will all, let me just go back in the last time. So when you come to leafletjs.com, since most of us are new to this library, that's I intentionally go to the docs for you to know where some of these things are, right? So that with time, as you practice, you get hold of some of these functions, and there will not be need for you to go back to the documentation anytime you want to develop your application. So what we are dealing with is GeoJSON, right? We are trying to get our GeoJSON layers onto the map. So we'll go to docs, right? Then we search for our GeoJSON. So this is GeoJSON. So you click on it. Then as I showed you on Monday, sorry, I keep saying Monday. Today is Monday. Okay, so that was last week Thursday. Sorry. So as I showed you on Thursday, um, I showed you how to load the UJSON without a style, so you load the UJSON with the default style. So that's what you saw in the map, right? So that's what you saw here. So now we want to add some style to our region, and if possible, we will change these markers to uh, some round circles. Yeah, we will change them to round circles to make it more appealing on the map, right? And maybe the line to the railway to add a touch of color to it. No, also I'm going to leave the railway to you. So the railway will be an assignment for you to do. So what you are going to touch base, it will be the region and the points. Then it's up to you to also style the railway Then after, you can just bundle everything in as a zip file. Then you send that to me on via our GitHub page using the issue stuffs, right? So you just put your name there, then you just upload it, just for me to know, get that feedback that you've understood what we um, taught you. It's not compulsory, but if you want to do, you can do so, and we'll be glad to help you. All right, so let's come back to our GeoJSON documentation. So as we can see, when you want to load a GeoJSON, you use the l.geojson function, then you pass in your data, right? So that's what we did. Let's come back to our code. So we use the l.geojson function. We pass our data, and I know we all know where we got this region. So for the sake of those of us who just joined, so we converted our shapefiles to GeoJSON using mapshaper.com. You can visit our YouTube page and watch the previous session. Yeah, so we converted these shapefiles to GeoJSON, which we kept them in a folder called data. So you can see we have three files here. One is 16 regions, health facilities, then rail lines. So when you click on the 16 regions, you have the GeoJSON there. So the region that I was showing in there is this. So we give this GeoJSON, or we assign it a variable called region, right? So when anytime we want to call this GeoJSON, there's no need for us. I have seen online people copying this whole thing into that function. It doesn't make the code um, organized, right? So we assign a variable to this GeoJSON. Then anytime we need this whole thing, we just call this region, right? So that's our variable. So let's come back to our JavaScript. So this is the region that we are calling here, the data I showed in this file, right? Same for the health sites layer, same for the railway, right? So this time around, we want to add um, a style to it. We want to style the what do you call it? The region, right? So I'm going to remove less comments. Just come here, hit to the next line and comment the add to map for the health facility and the railway layer. We only want to see the region layer on the map, right? So let me come here and
Please,
yeah,
please can
please,
you
I'm listening.
the font?
Okay, all right. That's all right. Thank you. Let me increase. If it's okay, let me know.
Yes,
Is it okay now?
yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. You're welcome. So what I just did was to, initially this add to map was here, and I'm just bringing it to the next line to comment it out. Right? We only need the region layer to be on the map. This we don't need this marker anymore now as the step. So I'll just comment it out. So now we only have, when I come to the map and I refresh, I should see just the region. So these are the regions in Ghana, like they are system, right? So if you want to style this um, layer, right? There are two ways in doing that. You can write it in a form of a function. You can also use the object to style this layer. But for the purpose of my demonstration, I'm going to use the objects, which I think it will be much more straightforward for the beginners among us, right? Yeah. So those of us who would like to use the function base, like the example they cited here, you can do that at your leisure time. If you get any error, prompt me after the session or during the week, and I'll be glad to help you fix that error. All right. So in order to pass the start, let me show you something. So these are the options you can pass. You can yeah, in the parameters you can pass through this l.geojson layer. So you can pass a point layer. You can use the style. You can use each on each feature. You can use the filter. You can use the port to learn last long. So these are all the options you can pass through this function, right? These are the all options you can pass through this function. The l.dojson. At your leisure time, you can just read the description and know much about this particular function, right? So we are going to use, because we want to style, this is what we are going to. We are going to use style, right? All right. So this is what we are going to do. So let's come to our code in our region, right? We'll put a comma here, then we'll bring this curly brackets, right? Right. Then we'll say style. Then we'll give it a value. And this value is going to be an object that we are going to pass, or the style that we are going to give to that layer, right? So I will say I'm going to declare a variable here, right? Let me, before I come back to this style, I'm declaring a variable here. So let's say variable region style. So I'll say region underscore style. But let me use the camel case. So region style. Oh, sorry. So we are saying region style, and we will create this object here. So we're about to create an object to style the region. So I'll pass this style, region style here, to this style. So everything that we put in here, because we've called this variable, sorry, the variable has to be because everything that we will be putting in here will be put here because we've called the variable here, right? So you open a curly bracket, then you pass the option star, then colon, then you bring in the variable. That's the star that we are about to add. So let's go back to our documentation. So our documentation says a function, so the function defining the path option. So let's open this option, this link. So when you open this link, these are the options that you can use, or you could use to style a layer, depending on the feature that you are showing. So if you are using a polygon, since we are all GIS people, or yeah, GIS professionals, or upcoming GIS professionals, we know when to use a certain option when we want to style a layer, whether the layer is a polygon, whether the layer is what do you call it? The layer is a polygon, the layer is a line, the layer is a point. Depending on what you want to do, you you know the right options to select. So let me cite this example. When you want to um, uh, let's say give a style to a line, right? When you want to give a style to a line, maybe you can use a stroke, you can use a color, you can use width, you can use opacity to reduce the the color, the thickness of the color, right? So these are like some options that you could use. So let's go back to our codes so that we try some options. Let's see. So we want to give it what do you call it? A color. And the color says it should have a default. So defaultly it comes with this color, right? But we are going to give it a color. So the color usually will be like the stroke, as in the edges of the polygon that we are about to style. So let's come here and say color, right? Then we are saying that color is for now I'll say red. I'll just give it a red color. Then let me say and come back here and run it and see. So you can see we are having red for the edges. Stroke, right? All right. So we also want to let's come back to this. We want to test all the maybe I'm just going to show you how these works. Some of these I wouldn't touch based on all these lists. I'll touch based on the ones that I think will help us achieve what we want to achieve today. All right. So we'll also check the opacity, right? So let's say opacity. I'll copy that. I'll come back to my code. Then after each line, because it's an object or it's a dictionary, after each line, after a key and a value, there should be a comma before the next item comes in. So I say opacity, and opacity ranges from 0 to 1, right? So if you want a full opacity, it's 1. So let's say, let me reduce opacity to 0.5 and let's check something out. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we've not applied any color to it, so we wouldn't see that much. That's true. Let's apply some color to it and see how it goes. So let's go to the fill color. So the fill color, we'll just copy this. No, I think the opacity, let me check something out. The opacity is supposed to work on it. Yeah, so the opacity works. I think it works. So you can see I changed it to 1, 0.1, and the opacity of the whole layer has reduced. The color has reduced. The transparency level has reduced. That's I think that's right. So these things is like you applying style to your layers in your ArcGIS or your QGIS software. So you can before I start any application or I start any GeoPortal or WebGIS application, all these layers will be stored in ArcGIS for me to see the output. So I know, okay, I'm bringing a region layer, so let me style it, and I'll bring, let's say, if there is a point that I'll be overlaying, I'll do all those cartography on the QGIS to visualize how it's going to look. At least before I start coding, I have like an output, what I want the code to bring out, right? So I know, okay, my region is going to have a stroke of black, the fill is going to be, let's say, red, then the opacity is going to be 5, 0.2, 0.3. So I do all that in my QGIS. Then I come here, then all I do is to replicate the same thing in the code, right? So to do that, if you need anything that any of the the style that any of the keys that you need to apply here, you can just come to the documentation. Maybe you want some dashes, you can just read through the documentation. Which of these functions will help me achieve that style I applied in QGIS, and you just pick it up and just do what you want to do with it, right? So basically, this is how you usually style your layer. So let me just check the weights and see. So I'll just bring a comma. So in the start when you are bringing the key, you just bring so weights. I will say let me use 1, right? Then I think the stroke should will reduce. Yeah, so you can see that the strokes, as in the edges, the width of the wedges, the edges have reduced in width, right? You can see that the thickness has reduced. So this is some of the functionalities or some of the options you can pass in applying a style to a particular layer. You can do the same for the real line. I think the real line I made mention is an assignment, so I wouldn't touch that. So it's up to you to start the real line yeah, to get it to that form.
I have a
All right.
question.
Okay.
How did you get the styling, style documentation?
Okay. Let me go back. So when you come to, let me go back to Leaflet, the homepage, so that it will help you navigate. Uh, So when you come to the leaflets or homepage, you go to documentation, or that's docs, right? The
Yes.
docs menu. Then because we are loading GeoJSON, so you go to the GeoJSON documentation, right? Then what we are trying to do is we want to apply a style, right? So these are the options that you can apply to the you can pass the options you can pass through this l.json function. So this is the style, right? So there's a link here that leads you to the options you can pass through the star option. So we have the stroke, we have the weight, we have the opacity, line cap, line join, dash iris. Yeah, so these are all the options, and we have some events also here which you can also explore. Yeah, and there's this thing that maybe let me touch base on the bring to front and bring to back. So assuming you have a layer, so you have this layer. It's quite unfair. Maybe when I bring the other layers on it, we'll experiment that. So you have this layer and you have another layer. Then maybe you want to bring one layer on top of it. So let's say there's another layer on top of this region, which is blocking the region, the details of the region, and you want to bring the region to the front, or yeah, on top of that layer. You can use that function bring to front, or you can also bring that layer to the back by using bring to back. It's as simple as that. So we will touch base on that, and we will experiment that. So at this point, I'll just bring back my code and give it a minute for those of us who are yet to catch up with the class to do so before we continue. So I'll just add, um, sorry, let me just take this comment here and just bring this. Yeah, so this we're adding the JSON, and I'll say uh, region style. The region layer. Sorry. So commenting, you can just give it any comments just for you to, for anyone who gets hold of your code to understand what you're trying to do, right? And let me also get iterate this. You know, we've repeated this as we are repeating L.json to load region, load facility, load railway. When you get used to this, you can write your own function, one function, then you only call that function and pass the layer. So there wouldn't be there wouldn't be no need for you to be repeating this whole thing one after the other again. So you have one function somewhere. So you call that function, let's say load layer, then you just pass your region data to it, then you pass your star to it, then you're good to go. There's no need for you to replicate all these things. Maybe going forward, when we start putting things together, uh, I will show you how to write your own functions to get your code dry. All right. So at this point, now we've been able to style our region. So let's do that for the railway, right? Then what we are going to do is to explore the point to layer. So we want to change what do you call it? We want to change this health facility layer. So now that we are done with we are done with the region, I'll just disable the region for it to load default. I want the health facilities to rather load in the default mode, right? So we should just see the health facilities as it loads here. So we've added health facilities and we've deactivated. Uh, oh, I think there's another somewhere. The marker is not here. I took off the marker from the script, so I have to take it off from the layer. Yeah, so usually when you're coding, I realized that this overlay, what do you call it? Sorry, layer control is not showing. So I realized that something has gone wrong. So I used my inspector to come into the console to see what is causing it because I haven't deactivated it. If it deactivated, it means something has happened. So what I did was to check the error and I realized that I commented the layer, the marker, right? I commented this off and this was added to the overlay here. So I have to also comment that one out, right? Okay. So let's try something out. Now that we've loaded our health facility, let's go back to our documentation. Someone, I know someone will keep saying, why are we just going to the documentation and coming back to the code? Because I want you to learn how to use some of these things. It's like you getting a TV, you have to read the manual before you use the TV, right? But in some parts of our world or some people, they just, or the moment they buy the TV, they will just put the TV on and call a friend. Oh, I bought this LG or this Samsung TV. How do I change the channel? There's a manual to it. So that's what I'm trying to um, show you here. There's a manual to the library. So I'm just pointing you to those areas so that at your leisure time, you can explore more into it. Yeah. All right, so we want to use this point to layer. This point to layer usually is being applied to point features, right? So we want to get our map. So we want a custom what do you call it? A custom points. This time around we don't need a marker, the default marker. We want some circle markers instead, right? And we just give the circle um a style. So to do that, we will just pass the point to layer, right? So I'll just copy this. Let's come to our health site. Then I'll just put a comma and pass the option. So as usual, I'll bring our curly brackets because what you are about to type is a bit long. I'll just give a space or hit the enter to get to the next line. Then I'll just bring our point to a yeah, sorry, point to layer, right? And as you check the documentation says what is a function, right? So in order to get this quickly done, let's copy this function. We can decide to type it. So let's just copy this function and apply the function here. So we'll say point to layer, right? Then as it goes, you are supposed to what pass the JSON here, right? So the JSON here is a feature, right? So we will say the feature. You can decide to keep it this way, but usually we use feature, right? Then the lat long will be just that. And over here, instead of returning a marker, we want to return a circle. And to return a circle, this is L dot marker. To return a circle marker, you just have to do type in circle, right? Then marker, right? Then you just pass this to it. Then defaultly, when you run this, you are going to get a blue, I think blue, yeah, blue circles. You are going to get blue circles. Let's run this and see what you get. Okay, there's an error. L dot circle is not a function. Well, let's check something out. What did we do wrong here?
The spelling of the marker.
Come again?
The spelling of the marker.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the spelling of the marker. All right. So let me come back. All right, so we are getting our blue circles here. So this is a default circle that will be added to the map. So now we want to style the circles, right? We want to style them. We want to give it some nice color to it. So to do that, we'll come back here. We'll come to the top here. Then we'll declare a variable, right? And that variable is going to hold the style for the points layer. So I'll say var. The first one, what did you write? So you said region star. So this time we are going to say health facility star. You can decide to give it any name. That will help you identify this. So since it's a circle, right, one of the options you can pass is a radius. We want to get the radius. So we say a radius, right? So just pass a radius of, let's say, let me make it 8, right? And um, let me give it a fill color. So we want the color of the circle to be green, right? You can decide to use the hex color coding, but for the purpose of presentation, I'm just using these colors, right? Okay, let me just save it and run it to see if something has changed. Okay, so there's an error. It says, and one of the things I want you to learn is error debugging. So this says uncut syntax token. So it's pointing me to the line 50, my map.js. So you go to your map.js, it says line 50, right? So you can see line 50, there's an error here. After var health facility, there's supposed to be what, an equal sign. I omitted it. Yeah, so that's it. So when I save this, and okay, there's one other thing. When you run the code, you wouldn't see any changes because we've not applied this to the points layer, right? We've not applied it to the points layer. So let's check it before we come back. So when I run this code, we are still getting blue. So let's come back here and apply this health facility. I'll just give it a layer. So health. Then I'll get this variable to get this content, right? So all that I need to do is to pass it here to the L dots circle layer, and we should be good to go. So when I come in here, so you can see we have the fill color is green. I don't know if you can see it. The fill color is green, but the strokes are still the default, right? So we want to change the strokes. To do that, we are going to use color, right? To do that, we are going to use color to change the default blue stroke, like the edges or the circumference of the circle. So we'll just come here and say color, right? Then say color is equal to, let me just give it red, just for us to see like it's in red. So we are saying that we have a fill color of green and the color, which is the edges, to be red. So this is the outcome. So you can see we have a green fill color and a red for the output. So these are some of the styles you can just apply to your points layers. Also, you can also change, reduce the edges of the color. So let's say, if you remember, we used weight. So we can apply weight to this also. So I'll give it a comma, come to the next line, and I will say weight. Let's give it a weight of 1. Right? You can also explore with the numbers to get the right output. So you can see that the 1 has reduced the size of the circumference, right? Right. I think this is much better. Yeah, this is much better. This is all right. So this will bring us to the end of our styling of a GeoJSON, right? For the for our polygon and point. For the line, it's an assignment. So I think it's the same thing that we did. You just have to apply the same style to the line and it should be good to go using the right parameters, right? Okay, so the other thing that I want to touch base on will be getting the what do you call it, other layers to the map. So we've now loaded our GeoJSON. We are going to load our WMS. So at this point, I want each and every one of you to launch your Geo servers on your PCs. So we are going to load our GeoJSON, our Geo server layers onto our map, right? So we are going to load our Geo server. I have mine always running in my background, in the background of my PC. So I just have to type localhost port 8080/Geo server. But some of you have to go to start, then search for Geo server. If yours is not running in the background, you can go to start, search for Geo server, come to Geo server folder and start Geo server before you can enter this URL, localhost colon 8080 then /Geo server. You should get this output. Let me just log out. When you do that, you are going to get this interface. Then defaultly, when you're installing your Geo server, the username was admin and the password was Geo server. If you change it during the installation, then you have to use those credentials to log in. All right. So let's do that. I think we'll pause whilst we get our Geo servers launched. Then we'll wait for our colleagues who are yet to get to where we are. Let me just bring the post back for those who are just typing. Okay, before we move to the Geo server, I think one thing escaped me. We have to add a pop-up to one of our layers, right? Let's add a pop-up. So I'm going to give you 2 assignments today. One is to start the railway. The other is going to add a pop-up to the health facilities. I'm going to show you how to add a pop-up to the region layer. It's up to you to get the pop-up to the last two. So the health facility and the railway. So you add pop-up to these two, right? So I'll just deactivate this as the default layer and reactivate our region, right? So let me refresh my screen on my web page. All right, so our region is back, right? So we want to add a pop-up to it so that when the user comes here and clicks on this, we will get a pop-up with the name of that particular layer or that particular feature that the user clicked on, right? So to do that, we'll go back to our documentation, then check something. Each layer has a function called on each feature. So this is what we are going to use. So just get this guy, right? Then copy that, or you can type it. Because I'm teaching, that's why I keep copying. But when you get used to it, you can just get the right thing and type it. So we'll come to this, right? And within these options, we'll come here and add, in order for it to be readable, right? I'll just come at the end of the star and hit enter, right? Just for it to, and I'll bring the style also to the next line for it to be more readable. Okay. So I'll just bring a comma because you're adding a new thing, a new item to it, to the dictionary. I'll just bring a comma and I'll bring the on each feature, right? And let's go back to our documentation and see what this guy is saying. It says on each feature, a function that will be called once for each created feature after it has been created and styled, useful for attaching events and pop-ups to features. The default is to do nothing with a with a newly created layer. And this is a sample of the code. So it says that on each parameter here is picking a function, and this is a sample of the function, right? So we'll get this guy, then we'll come here as usual, our colon, like the first one, then we'll bring the function here. So we are saying that on each feature, the function, and it says it takes the feature and the layer, right? So we are going to write our code in this curly brackets. In this curly bracket, that's where the function is going to be. So I'll hit enter to write the code in here. Right. Let me just pause for like 30 seconds for us to get to this. So to add a layer or to add a pop-up to a layer, we will call this layer, that's the function. So we say layer, right? Then we say dot bind pop-up. Then I mentioned something about these JavaScript library or this leaflet functions. Usually when you're typing anything and it's a default, an inbuilt function, check the case. Mostly they are camel case. So if you are typing something and let's say you make it bind pop-up, something should tell you that this is wrong. Like this is not how that function is supposed to be. So this is an inbuilt function and it should come in that camel case. The bind pop-up, right? One word. Then you open your brackets. Then this time we are saying that you want to get the region name. So to get the region name, let's come back to our data to check something. So click on our data to check the properties. Or before that, you can even check that in your QGIS if you have the shapefile that you converted. You can check that in the QGIS and get the properties or the attributes of that particular layer, the column that you want to call. So I'm just scrolling to the end. Okay, so let's take this feature for instance. So you can see that the properties, we have an ID, we have a region, we have a rec code, that's the region code, and we have the area in square kilometers, right? So our task now is to add the region name. So we want to add this name to the pop-up, right? So what you are going to do is to pass that region and pass this particular attributes to our code so that when the user clicks on it, the pop-up will just pop up with the name, right? So the keyword here is what's region. So this is what you are going to call. So let's keep in mind it's region because you want to add a name. If you have your QGIS, you can open your shapefile and check the column on the attributes to get the column name. So it's the column name that you are about to call here. So we are saying that on each of the features that you are going to load in this particular GeoJSON, right? Get the properties. So we say feature, right? Dot properties dot. Then we are saying that the dot is what? The region. So when you get into the feature, check the properties, then get the name region. So let's come back here. So you are saying the feature. So when you load all the feature, there's the property here. So get into this property, then call the key region. That's what you are trying to say, right? Okay, so let's come back to our code. So I think we are good to go. So over here, at this point, if no error no error pops up, we should get our pop-up working. So I'll just save it and come back to our map, refresh it, no errors. Okay. When you click on it, you should get a pop-up. So you can see where I've clicked the Ashanti region. You can click Savannah region, Upper West, Northern region, the T region, Water region, Greater Accra, Western Nile. So our pop-up is working. All right. So today I'm going to give you so many assignments so that it will keep you practicing. I realize a lot of you are practicing, and I'm so much impressed with some of the outputs some of you are getting. I think some of these assignments will keep you practicing to get it perfected. So our first assignment is to get the star for our railway, right? Then add a pop-up to the railway. So we want to also get the pop-up. When you click on the railway, we want to see a pop-up, right? And the second assignment is to add a pop-up to all the layers. So currently I've done that for the region. So it's up to you to add that for the health facilities, right? So we have two assignments now. By the time we finish, we'll be having about 4 of them. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then the last assignment. Sorry. Last assignment. Let me add it to it. So you can see that the layers that we are adding to the map has not been added to our layer control. So add these layers to the layer control so that I can switch in between the layers. Currently, we are only having the base maps, right? We're only having the base map. So I want you to add the layers to it so that we can be switching in between layers, right? Okay, so that's our third assignment. I've jotted it down. So add layer control. Sorry, add layers to layer control. All right, noted. Okay, so let's move on to the next item. Now we are done with GeoJSON. Right? We are moving on to our GeoServer. So all the stuff that we did in our GeoServer class, we are going to apply them here. So at this point, I know we've all launched our GeoServer. Let's use our credentials to log in into our GeoServer. then we are going to see something like this. I think during the last session in our GSF, I published about 5 layers or 6. I'm thinking it's 5. Yeah, I think it's 5 layers. Okay, 6 instead. So we have 6 layers here. Yeah. So we published our house facilities. It's the same layers that we have in there. We have our regions, we have our POIs, we have our railways, we have our rivers, and we have our land use, land cover. Let's check something, whether these things still work. I haven't, frankly speaking, I haven't checked this since the last time we worked on it. So let me just check whether the files are still at their right places. So I want to preview. If you want to preview the layer, come to layer preview and just click on open layers. Let me check the layer land cover. That's an image. Oh, what is happening? I think that image is a bit heavy, so it will take some time for it to load. Since I'm not getting any error, I think it's loading. Okay, so let me check the other layers whilst the other one loads. Let me check reverse. Okay, so the reverse loaded. I think that is much lighter. Let me come back here. I think it's still loading. Let me check POIs. Okay, so that is also loading. Yeah. So what we are going to do here um, is to load these layers also onto the map. So as for today, we have a lot of assignments to do. We are going to load these layers. I'm going to run an example to add 2 of these layers to the map. Then is your assignment to add these layers to the layer control so that we can be switching in between the juice and JSON layers and the WMS layers. If you are unable to do that, in our next session, we'll just run through the assignments to check those who had it correct, and we'll just correct ourselves and get this together. The main motive of this whole exercise is to make sure that you understand what you are teaching, right? So that the end goal is to use that template we shared. I think when Jedediah, some of you have already started that. I think is a nice thing that you are doing. You are being proactive. So the templates that we shared, that's going to be our final WebGIS application that we are building. So as we are teaching, some of you are getting the knowledge and they started building the application as we go on. So by the time we finish everything, they have a complete application built using that template, and that's going to be our final goal. So at the end of all these WebGIS things, which will be ending on Thursday, we will use all this knowledge and get it into our templates to get the final work done, right? So that will be the first part of the WebGIS. Then after we are done with the App Engine coming week, we'll have App Engine will be running that for the next 3 weeks. Then we'll come back to Django. I will be using object-oriented like programming using Python-based um, library called the Python-based framework called Django to develop our WebGIS, and we are going to make it more um interactive by getting live data from our databases and getting data into our databases and all that. So it's a gradual process, right? So let's go back. Let's go back to our layer and see if it's still loaded. Okay, so it has loaded finally. So this is an image that a GeoTIFF that we published. Those of us who were in that session, I think it's still loading. The machine is a bit slow today, so please pardon me for that. But on your screens, I think you should have the layers, this particular layer loaded, right? Same for the other ones. So let's quickly add these layers to our map and let's see. So I'm going to comment this guy as our default layer, the region layer, I'll just comment it out, right? Then I'll just come down here and I'll say, okay, so adding WMS layers, right? Adding WMS layers. So to do that, let's go back to our documentation to see where we can find that. So I'm going to go back. Let's go back to the main page, the main menu. All right, we come to the docs. Then let's search for WMS. Okay, so here's it. It's under raster layers. So just click on WMS, style.wms, and they are telling us that anytime you want to load a WMS layer, this is how you do it. So you call the l.style layer.wms, you get your WMS link here, then you get your layer here, then it should be good to go. If you want to add an attribute to it, you can add an attribute. And let me show you the attributes they are talking about. Usually, when you load the map, hope you see this. This leaflet thing here is an attribute. Let me see if any of these layers comes with an attribute. So you can see this also here, leaflet, and we have open street map. Yeah, so that's an attribute. So when you're loading your layer, if you want it to come with an attribute, maybe a product that you developed, and you want MS to get that attribute. Okay, so this is something to identify the product that you are putting online, right? Okay, so let's come back to our coach. Sorry, we were supposed to go back here. This guy. So what we are going to do, okay, I'm getting a feedback. I'm moving too fast. All right. So let me just pause for 30 seconds. For those of us who are yet to launch our juicer to do so. Okay, so whilst we wait for them, so this is the layer that we want to load. So you can see a nice tree cover map over Ghana. And this data was also extracted from Google Earth Engine, right? So I exported this layer out of Google Earth Engine. I wrote a code to run this product and got it out of Google Earth Engine and published it in the server, right? So we also learn how to use Google Earth Engine, explore all those data, stellar images to suit our remote sensing needs, right? So we'll be doing that the coming week. That's next, God willing, next week, Monday.
Please, can you leave the on each feature for just 20 seconds? I'd like to check something there.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. So I think we can continue. Let's quickly add our layer to it. Then we can wrap up the day. Okay, so what I was saying was that you go to the leaflet docs, then you search for tile layer.wms. You get this line of codes, right? So this is going to help us to load our WMS to our map, right? So that's what I copied. So I copied this guy here, brought it here, right? Then I was saying that the link in here is supposed to be the URL to our geo server, and the layer here is supposed to be the layer on our geo server that we want to publish or to show on our map, right? So before the internet went down, I was showing you some of the layers that we've published in our Geo server, right? So the first layer that I want us to publish will be the regions, right? Even though we have a region in there, okay, let's use the reverse. We already have a region, but let's use reverse. So I'll server and we have reverse here. So you can see, so this geospatial you see before the layer name is the workspace, right? That's the name of the workspace. And those of us who missed our GeoServer class can go to the YouTube page and search for the GeoServer class, and you should be able to understand some of these things. We've already talked about this. All right. So to get our GeoServer on our WMS on the map, you go to your preview, try and open your preview, your layer on your preview, right? So all that we need here, so the link for the layer, you copy from the local host, right? So if it's on your server, you copy from your server IP or your domain up until the WMS. So you can see the layer, the workspace that we are working in is geospace. So we are seeing localhost port 8080 slash geoserver slash geospatial slash WMS. So I'll just copy this guy, then I'll just paste it here, right? Please, at any point in time, if I go off, kindly prompt me. Okay. So we get our link here. So I have localhost port 8080 slash geoserver slash geospatial. So this is supposed to be the workspace you created your data sets in, and slash geoserver, right? So what I'm going to do here is to get our layer. Oh, sorry. I pasted it in the wrong place. It's supposed to be in the WMS. Yeah, it's supposed to be here. Sorry. All right. So we have to get our layer name in here. So the layer name is what? Reverse. So let me get the right. Oh, where is it? Reverse. All right. So it's what? Reverse. So you just copy. You have to copy this together with the workspace name. So you have geospatial colon reverse, right? So you get that, then you come to your code, you paste that here. So we are saying that enter our the GeoServer with this URL. Then we are saying that go into this workspace, then get me this layer. We can have different reverse in our GeoServer, but different reverse in different workspaces. And I think during when I was taking you through the GGO server, I explained the reason why we use some of these workspace and the stores here. So you can get that in our video. All right. Then I will just add this to the map to see if it's going to come. So I'll just clear off the semicolon and just type in add to map. As simple as that. And this is going to, I'll change the variable name because it's not then the default one we copy. So this is river. So I'll say river. Let me use river WMS just to differentiate in case we load any other river, which is a JSON, we can differentiate these two. So I'll say the layer name is river WMS. So I'll just save this and come back to my map and refresh it and see if something loads. Okay, I think it's showing. And because of the base map, we are not seeing that. Or yeah, it's showing. Let me change the base map and see to satellite view, so you can see that. So that's our data set. Okay, I think this. Yeah, the layer is showing, so that's our reverse. I think the color blends with the base map, so you're unable to see that well. Okay, let's try a different layer to get that also. So I'll say we want to load our tree cover map, right? Uh, so I'll just copy this set of codes. It's the same. So this will be um, loading load. Sorry, WMS. Then I'll just come here and I'll just paste the same set of codes. This time I'm going to add the tree cover map. So I'll say tree cover WMS. All right. So over here, instead of the river, it has to be our layer name. So let's get the right layer. So it's what? Tree cover. So I'll just copy this. Since it's the same geospatial, I'll just copy this layer, this tree cover. Oh, sorry. I'll just add this to it. Right. I'm going to put this off the river off. Right. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Yeah, and usually this the that layer is a bit heavier, even though it's lighter. It's lighter than the geotip itself, but on the map it's much lighter, so it's low. So you can see it's loading. Right. So depending on your machine's RAM or depending on your machine, the speed of your machine, I think some of you should see the full image loaded here. Okay. So it's the assignment to add all the layers that you try to add to the map today to the layer control. So I should see in the outputs, I should see all the GeoJSON's layer here, and I should also see the WMS layers also in there. All right. So this brings us to the end of our WMS and leaflet layer loading. There is one plugin that you can also look into. Let's say you have a WMS layer, you want to get the attribute. There's this plugin called Beta WMS. Maybe you can Google it and uh, try and apply it and see how it also works. I think it's Beta WMS. Yes, let me see. So I'm just Googling that. Yeah, so the Beta WMS helps you. So it's a plugin that someone has written, and it helps you to get the attributes or the feature information of a particular date. So that's it. You can go to the GitHub and go through the documentation. And I'm assuming all of us know how to um, um, apply or add a plugin to our map. I think when we started the map, we added a scale to the map. We also went to add the print plugin to the map. So it's a similar thing. My internet is a bit slow today. So that's the GS, and that is how to apply. So you can go through the documentation, and this GS can also be applied. I think one of the projects I worked on, I got this guy and I modified the way it shows the the information. I think his comes in a horizontal in that long table, so I modified the plugin to suit my design. You can also do that. Maybe in our subsequent sessions, I'll share that updated plugin or JS with you. maybe it might be of great use to some of us. Yeah, so I'll bring today's sessions to an end. It's today's session to an end, and I'll open the floor for some questions. I know today the internet hasn't been good to us, but please forgive me for that. Maybe I'll try and get a better alternative. Yeah, when we get to the other sessions. So the floor is open for questions. If you have any questions, you can just put them in the chat, and I'll be very glad to answer them one after the other. All right, thank you. So the floor is open for questions. If you have any question, you can get it on board for us to look at it.
Sorry, please just go back to that on each feature again. Seems I'm having an issue on that.
Okay, so here's it.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So we have, okay.
Yeah. I like to compare what I have to see where the issue is.
Oh, okay. All right. Please, any other question, any submission, any contribution? I know we have some experienced guys also on the platform. So we are sharing knowledge, we are exchanging knowledge. If you have anything that you want to bring it on board, something that maybe I might have missed it in my presentation, you can just bring it on board for those of us who are now learning to also have that knowledge. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ernest.
Yeah.
A question on adding that on each feature. If I decide to add more properties to the pop-up, do I keep defining the properties in that function, inside that function?
Come again.
The on each feature to create the pop-up for the properties of the layer.
Okay.
We added just one property region. If I decide to add the area property and other properties.
Okay, so you can define. Yeah,
okay.
so you can do it this way also. You can decide to define. Okay, let me just use this. So I'll just define this. I'll say label, right? Okay, then I'll say label is equals to, then I'll get this guy. So this is our first one, right? Our first attribute we want to show. All right, let me just use this. Just to combine the attributes with a string. So I'll say the first one is name, right? Then I'll come back and this, I'll put a break here. I hope you remember break in your HTML class. Then I'll add another label, right? And I'll say, okay, so let's append this to our label. Then I'll just copy this guy here and add it here. And maybe this time around we need area, right? So we say area, then the attribute for that area is what? Let's check here. So it's this guy. So we just copy this guy. Oh, I didn't copy. So that's the key. That's the key here. Then I'll just add this to it. So let's just run our codes. Okay, now we have to add this to the map, right? So I'm just going to add this one to the map. Right. I added this guy to the map. So I'm taking off the tree cover. My machine is a bit slow. That's why I'm trying to load one layer at a time. In your on your machine, you can try and load the others at the same time and see how it comes up. So I'll refresh. Okay, yeah, I got as much. This was going to cause an issue. The label name, where you're seeing it as a function. Where is it? This guy, this guy, this guy. So usually labeling. Oh, the label here isn't friendly when called because it's going to take this as a function. Meanwhile, to is a label, right? What is it? So this you can edit that before you change. You convert that to your JSON, right? Let's try a different feature. Let me use record. That's the code, right? I didn't. Let me come back here. Oh, sorry. Let me use this instead. Okay. Okay, so I forgot to do one thing. After you've added this guy, this time around, we are now going to append label to the bin pop-up, right? So it's label. We are adding this guy to the bin pop-up so that we get it in there. So let me just refresh it. When I click on it, I'm supposed to get the two. So you can see I'm getting the two properties in there. So you can also style it. You can bring your CSS to play here, but maybe you can put this in a table and yeah, style it. Get this into a table. And so if you have other properties, you can add it to it. But I wouldn't advise you, especially with this example. It's good it came up. I inherited this data from a colleague and I didn't check the properties. This usually causes problems because when you are calling this as an attribute, it sees this bracket, it sees this name, this label as a function because you are passing a parameter like the brackets that you see there. So usually that's how to add multiple layers. So with this you can add a table, then you are rearrange it better, right? So I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Please, is there any other question? I have to catch up. I have to join another meeting at 9 o'clock. So if we can wrap up now. If there is no question, then I think we can wrap it up. If you have any questions during the week, you can put that in the page or on our page, and I'll be more than glad to help you out. And please, the next week, God willing, next week we'll be going into an introduction to Earth Engine, right? So we'll be tackling how, like, we will be going through the usage of Earth Engine in our geospatial analysis, our remote sensing stuff. So I'm entreating each and every one of you to get an Earth Engine account. And usually it takes about 24 to 48 hours to get the account if you are now going to register. So I entreat you to register either today or tomorrow before we get to next week. I shared some links in the documentation on GitHub on how to get the registration done. Yeah, so you can also go through that. I shared a link on the page. You can go through the previous messages. I'll get that link and also share how to fill the form. If you don't fill the form well with the right responses, you will be denied in getting access to Earth Engine. So you have to read all these before you register. But if you have an account already, then you should be good to go. Yeah. So that will be our next on our agenda. That's Google Earth Engine. Then after Google Earth Engine, we'll now dive into object-oriented programming. We'll be using Django for our what do you call it? Our session. So Django is a Python framework. Yeah, and it's going to help us connect our database, get data into query data, and it's going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting. Those of us who want to learn Python also will take you through introduction to Python before we dive into the Django, because Django is built on Python, right? So we'll do all those stuff, do special queries. I think we are getting to the climax of the whole program, and I hope we've impacted. So I'm getting some feedback so far. We've tried our best. I hope this will help each and every one of you on this page. Then in our subsequent trainings, it will be of great use to you. All right. So at this point, I'll wrap up, and let's keep practicing, as I always say, and let's try as much as possible to overcome any obstacle, that is any error that we encounter. If you battle it out and you're unable to fix it, hit me up, DM me, or get it onto the GitHub platform, and all the instructors or the experienced guys among us will come onto the page and help you out. All right, thank you and stay blessed. Bye bye.